Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk, and my review, my patron requested review, I might add, of the 1974 film The Parallax View, a political thriller directed by Alan J. Pakula, who would go on 2 years later to make the critical success of All the President's Men, which is regarded as one of the greatest political thrillers of all time. A film I've seen, but I'm not that sold on, to be honest. I think it's maybe because I don't come from that era. The whole Watergate scandal was never something that really impacted my life, so yeah, maybe that's why. But a film that's well made, but one that doesn't really grip me the way that I feel like a film of its reputation should. So Joseph Lionel suggested this one for me. This is his request via Patreon, and yeah, he thought it might be one that might interest me, so came to it with an open mind and watched it, and I gotta say, it's a good film. I prefer this, I think, to All the President's Men. Again, as I say, that's the film that gets more praise. Kind of, it's the one that probably stands out for most people on Pakula's CV. But I was much more intrigued with this film, and I gravitate, I think, a lot more towards the central character played by Warren Beatty. So he plays this reporter who, in many circles, is probably considered quite run-of-the-mill, but he's dedicated and he's willing to go places where, you know, it's going to give him a reputation, I guess. And he's given a story by a friend, kind of ex-lover kind of thing. Basically, there's an assassination, and suddenly, a few months later, all the people who witnessed that assassination seem to be getting bumped off. They're having accidents or, heart attacks and things like that. And yeah, so this woman, she was one of them. She thinks she's next, and she's really fearful for her life. He doesn't believe her. He thinks it's all hogwash. That is, until she dies in suspicious circumstances. To him, at any rate. So that sends him on this journey of trying to uncover what was going on. Who was behind the original assassination? Who is behind these assassinations? And why? Why are they killing these people? So the answer to that is one that is an enjoyable ride to get to. It's if you've seen a political thriller of the 70s, and if you've watched something even like Captain America: Winter Soldier, a film that kind of draws much inspiration on films of this ilk. It's Pakula's movies and films like, The Conversation, Francis Ford Coppola's stuff, things like that in the 70s that kind of inspired that sort of film. This is it. This is the kind of movie that you're going to get. It's full of intrigue. It's full of characters who look very shady and get up to very shady things. You've got a central character who is something of an anti-hero. He's not a perfect human being. He's quite flawed, but that makes him more intriguing, makes him more relatable. And I like Warren Beatty's performance as well in that. I think Beatty himself is obviously a very accomplished actor, and here I think he does a very good job of bringing you in to this man's world, to his mindset, to him as, like I say, a flawed character. Despite his flaws, you still kind of love this guy. He's a bit cheeky. He's a bit kind of has an attitude where he doesn't really care what he's getting into, just as long as he's trying to get to the truth. So yeah, a character that you can love and appreciate for his merits despite his flaws. I think the film obviously owes a debt, or certainly plays into much of the paranoia that came out of the assassination of JFK. You think of all the conspiracy theories surrounding that, who was really responsible. this, that, and the other. The hitmen behind the hitmen, so to speak. This film really plays into that. You have politicians being assassinated in this who have something of a JFK flavour about them, well loved by the people. And then you have all these shady types underneath rocks who are orchestrating these assassinations for various reasons. And the film really does feel like, well, quite simply, I just don't think it would exist without JFK's assassination. If JFK had not been assassinated, I think the movies of the 70s would have gone a different route. I don't think we'd have had the level of political thrillers that kind of invaded the 70s Hollywood movie screens that we did. And I think this is clearly one of them. Like I say, this precedes All the President's Men by 2 years. All the President's Men obviously being based on a true story. So you have obviously Pakula here coming with a fictional story, but is very much rooted in real world paranoia and suspicion, only to follow it up 2 years later with a film which was just as paranoid, just as kind of conspiracy driven, but just so happened to be based on a very real, very true story that was kind of, that America was dealing with at that time. So clearly very big inspiration for films that came after in the 70s and beyond. This is a really good film. It's taut, it's engaging, it plays up the levels of paranoia really well. You never know who to trust. There's one section of the film when Beatty's character goes to question this police officer, or find out information from this police officer, and right off the bat you're like, is this guy on the level? Oh, can you believe what he's saying? And then there's a turn, and it's just like, I like the fact that you never know who to trust. The only guy you can trust is Beatty's character. Even his boss, to be honest. He has this newspaper boss, the kind of Perry White type character, played by Hume Cronin, who has quite a distinguished career in his own right. Even as a writer, he wrote the film Rope, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, and also appeared in Shadow of a Doubt, one of my favourite Hitchcock films. So, like I say, accomplished filmmaker, actor in his own right, and he plays Beatty's boss, and it's not until a particular moment in the film, once you realise that, clearly the guy is on the level, there's still something about him where you're like, is he in on this somehow? Is he trying to divert Warren Beatty's character away from the truth? Is he being paid off by the same people who paid off certain police officers and things? You just don't know, because the paranoia level is literally ramped up so full that anyone could be in on it. So the only character you trust, as I say, is Beatty's character, who is a flawed character in his own right. This film itself does actually have a Hitchcock vibe about it in many respects. Hitchcock did do a lot of political thriller type movies, espionage stuff. You think North by Northwest, Saboteur, things like that. This has very much that kind of flavour. Even the assassination at the beginning, when they chase the assassin up on top of the building where they're in this tower, this huge tower. That whole setup feels very Hitchcock to me. You think the end of Saboteur on top of the building, or you think, like I say, on Mount Rushmore with North by Northwest. It has that flavour, being on a huge landmark, a monument, and this guy kind of falls off. It does have a Hitchcock flavour. I do like the cinematography as well. It feeds into that. We have a lot of wide shots, very much kind of shot in wides. I think that's just indicative of the period in which this film was shot. I think as we got into the 80s and certainly the 90s, film became more about the close-up. We got closer in on people's faces, got that emotion. Whereas, throughout the 60s and 70s, a lot of films were shot quite panoramic, quite wide, and this, I think, is definitely one of their movies. But I like I like that kind of cinema. I think we almost kind of need to get back to that in some way, you know, opening up the scope, so to speak, and just, yeah. I think you can do a lot with a really wide shot. You can paint quite a picture. You often have shots where, like towards the end of the film, when Beatty's character is up on this ledge and there's all this stuff going on down below, it kind of, using the wide shots, it helps you to, it brings you into two different worlds at the same time. And it's like the people down below are never quite aware of what's going on up there, even though we as an audience are, and we're kind of in both of these worlds, seeing what's going on, and these two worlds are connected in some way by the, you know, by the intrigue, by the assassination and all this, that, and the other. We kind of know what's going on, and them down below don't. I just think, yeah, like I say, I think you'd lose some of that with getting into close-ups if it was shot today. It's a really great political thriller. If you like those kind of movies, you know, the reporter going up against the odds, kind of fighting the establishment, looking into conspiracies, that kind of stuff. I think this is a really good film to delve into if you haven't seen it. Definitely an inspiration for others that came after. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I really liked it. I'm glad Joe recommended it, and I too, obviously, given my rating, would recommend it to you. If you have seen it, I would like to know what you thought about it, and I'm sure Joe would too. So please do leave your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on this film. Tell me which one as well. If you've seen them both, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the Parallax View or All the President's Men? And could that have something to do with true life story versus fictional story? I don't know. For me, obviously, in this case, I've sided with the fictional. But yeah. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching this video, and until next time, crack it.